these tubes, I call these like my green tubes of hope. I love them because I think that they're a symbol of how we're stewarding and protecting these young trees that are growing up. And they're all so different. Every single one of them has its own unique identity. This one is almost empty. There's a tiny shoot at the bottom. Some of them are coming up above the top. They're so healthy. Who knows why? Maybe because they've got good fungal partners down beneath the soil, or maybe because they get a little bit more rain or a little bit less wind. And they've transformed so much since I got here. Because when I got here only 3 weeks ago, these little green buds weren't here. And now they're all coming out. And what a landscape. And I mention some of the things that I've written about this project. The botanist Diana Beresford Kroger, and I really like, she has this whole perspective on planting trees. People always say, oh, trees, but they take so long to grow, and she's like, they don't take that long. They'll grow if you plant them. And I like that idea because it's proven. When you see something like this, they just grow. They'll find their way up. You sort of forget the time. I mean, a tree that's 60, 80 years old, it's only an infant in most cases. But in human timescales, that's quite long. And you wouldn't believe how quickly they'll spring up. When this is, I mean, in the future, when this is all fully grown, there'll be canopy up above, and there'll be older trees that will protect the younger trees, and there'll be plenty of brush and willow and scrub and things that will stop the deer and the goats from getting in. But when it's all open land like this, the deer and the goats would have a field day, and there'd be no trees left. So one of the things I keep thinking about when I'm here, I see these countless green tubes in mute witness standing to some future. I think about what they might tell their offspring and how they might try and explain to the trees in the future what it was like to grow up inside of a tube, not feeling the air until you were, maybe 5-10 years old. Because those trees, the younger trees that are coming in the future, they won't know that. They'll grow up under a canopy. They'll grow up under a whole woodland that exists here that we'll never see, but it'll be there. And how do you explain to something that can never experience something like that will never be wrapped in a tube? How do you explain what it was like to be a tube tree once upon a time? I don't know. It's a strange thought. I'm an artist. I'm allowed to have strange thoughts. This is I find this whole landscape so hopeful because it's not a landscape for now. It's a landscape for a future that isn't here yet and that we will never know. Just like the people who are planting here, they're not planting for themselves. You don't plant trees for yourself. You plant trees for the people in the future. It's hard to sell the idea of doing something for somebody so distant that you can't recognise or see. It's a future that isn't even there yet. But I think that's part of the reason. I think that's part of the reason why the Wildwood project and why Northumberland Wildlife Trust bring artists in and get them involved, is because we'll look at these things, the hopefulness of some sort of a future that isn't there yet, and try and present them to people so that they can look at things just a little bit differently too.